Hello, hello, my darling friends. It's Michelle from Tape and Twine. Welcome back to my channel and welcome to part 2 of my series on how to make journals out of cardboard boxes. My first journal that we made together was a macaroni and cheese box, and I will link that video below in case you haven't seen that yet. And today's box is a cracker box, which is probably my it's a toss-up between these two, which is my favorite size. But a cracker box just gives you a much bigger front and allows you to have a little bit more wiggle room in your size. So grab a cracker box and some beautiful papers and let's get started. Okay, so today we are going to be working with a digital. Now, when I started working on junk journals, I never used digitals. I used paper that I had, and I used a lot of scrapbook paper. And that is fabulous to do, including wallpaper, all sorts of types of paper that you might have handy. I do use digitals from time to time, especially if it's something that I don't have or I can't make myself. And in this case, this particular digital from Barbara at 49 Dragonflies really fit the ticket for me because the graphics that are in this kit have to do with junk journaling and creativity and art and it's called What's on My Desk, and it is actually what is very near to what is on my desk. And since the journals that I am working on all relate to my goals for this year in papercraft and journaling, I just really liked the idea of using these papers. Now, full transparency, Barbara, I'm not on her design team. I don't know Barbara other than the way you all know Barbara through watching her wonderful videos. And I'm not only using this because I absolutely love the graphics, but if you watch her videos, Barbara is probably one of the hardest working women out there. I mean, not to take away from anybody else because there are plenty, but she really works hard to give her community a lot of really great content, freebies, and she has such generosity that, it was a pleasure to purchase from her shop. I love shopping with other artists, especially ones that work so hard. So one thing I wanted to mention is I am often a goof up. It is just, I'm not precise and I don't always keep track of everything perfectly. And I wanted to print, if you watched the mac and cheese journal video, you noticed when I mentioned that I did not print my pages to the edge because when I originally printed this kit out, it was just kind of for reference. So I knew what was in the kit. And then when I wanted to use it, I realized, well, that's not so great. So today I decided I was going to print to the edge of my paper, which I did. And I wanted to print on the other side on some of these sheets as well. So let me give you an example. So here's an example. I printed this sheet with one of her papers. She includes many backgrounds in this kit, which I will link below. And I'll also link the video where she describes the kit because I only bought the backgrounds. There's a lot more pieces of this kit if you enjoy this type of these graphics, but she includes 2 very plain backgrounds, which are wonderful so that you can print both sides and have something on both sides. Well, of course, I couldn't remember which side to put the paper in and which orientation, so I inevitably printed these backgrounds. There's this background here, and then there's a blue background. Let me see if I can find it. Blue background, where are you? Here's the blue background right here. Again, I'm a little bit of a spaz. I spilt some tea on this side, but you can see that, it's like a blue and gold background. So I wanted to print both sides, and I had the paper in wrong, so I ended up printing the background on top of the actual sheet. So these colors are actually darker than her original kit. And you know, even though I had to chuckle at myself when I did it not once, but twice, I have to say I kind of like the effect. I mean, I like the original of hers, don't get me wrong, but Barbara, if you're watching, this is kind of really cool. You can print your plain backgrounds on top of an already created kit and it brings down the color a little bit. So I kind of dig it. So I'm actually going to think, what if there was a background that had like writing on it? I could totally print out something, you know, a kit, and then print another layer on top. You know, happy accidents, right? I like when I do things right, but sometimes when I do things wrong, it works out as well. So let's get started because you're sick of hearing me yammer on already. I can hear you yelling at me and you're not even with me. So what I did is I printed off several of the backgrounds and I double-sided them, like I said. Not this one, obviously. So these are going to be covers of signatures, and I have 5 signatures for this book. Each booklet, each signature has about 7 or 8 pages. I don't mind this as a cover of one. It's kind of a heavier paper. And this is like a scrapbook paper, and it's double-sided, so I'm going to keep this as a cover. This is watercolor paper. I don't want this to be my cover, so I'm going to use one of these sheets as a cover. And then I have these 2 award papers, which I think are kind of fun, but I don't want them as covers either. They're also very light. And the goal of this book that I'm making is a sample book. For a long time, I've been wanting to make a sample book. And what is a sample book? Well, a sample book is exactly what it sounds. When you make a new treatment for your junk journal, let's say you make a tag or an embellishment or a tuck spot or a belly band or a pocket, and maybe you use a new technique, you can make your original, the one that you first try out, your sample, and put it in your sample book so that you can use it as a reference book later on when you're making junk journals, when you're trying to remember the types of things that you can choose from for your embellishments. I have been wanting to make one for, gosh, probably 1.5 years. And then Tracy Fox mentioned making a sample book in January. I'll link that video below. And I thought, that's it. I'm getting off my duff. I need to make a planning book, which was the mac and cheese journal I made yesterday. And now this is going to be the sample book that goes with it. And I've already started making some samples that I'll put in there after, and maybe it'll make it in the video. We'll see how long this takes. So we are going to be working with some regular scrapbook paper today. We are going to be working with a digital, a cracker box. I've already put my papers together. So it's just a variety of papers all stacked together and cut already and ready to go. And I definitely want a no-sew binding because I want to be able to take these pages out and put them back in, especially if something I'm doing, let's say I'm doing a flip out or a, I don't know, a tuck spot or something with sewing. I may want to actually do it to the page the way that I would in a junk journal. And then I want to slip it back into my sample book. So that is a lot of words for what we're doing today. So I'm going to start first with what I want to do for the cover, which is just like yesterday's. Essentially, I've cut my box. I've kept these in because I want to make this stronger. And what I've chosen for the outside of the book is this sheet. I really, really love the colors of this particular page. I love the nautilus and the stamps and the washi tape, and that just floats my boat. So what I'm going to do is take my trusty glue stick and the art glitter glue, and just like yesterday, I am going to glue this paper onto the cover. Just really, really easy peasy. And I like to use a combination of glue stick and art glitter glue stick in the center, and then art glitter glue on the outside edges just to keep the paper down really, really well. I am going to work from one side to another. And since this is my front cover, I'm going to work from this side first. I'm going to, now obviously this is not going to be big enough to cover the whole thing like yesterday's book. So I am just going to, I think I should have measured this ahead of time. See, I'm like only a few minutes in already realizing that I'm goofing up. So let me slice this down. I want to cut it probably about there. That might be too big. We're going to have to see. I think that's going to be good. And I'm just going to put it right here, just like that. And if you flip it over, you'll see I have a nice little border. So now on this half, this is not going to be big enough, right? So I'm probably going to use this for the spine. I don't think I want that on the spine. I think I want this as the image. So I'm just going to make a little bit of a mark, and I have to make this exact because this is not going over the edge. So if I line this up, I need it to be about here. So I'm going to cut this. And of course I have to trim off the white that I have on this side. I'll put that on the spine. Okay, so now I just need this piece. Luckily my glue stick is still hanging in there. I think I'm going to choose, I think I like this. I'm going to have to reapply my art glitter glue because enough time has passed. The glue stick I think is still pretty tacky, but the art glitter glue has dried some. Yeah, the glue stick is still fine. And I'm going to, I have the hinges here, as you can see, and you can see a little bit of that yellow. Now, I'm not a huge fan of that yellow, but we will figure that out. I'm either going to put tape here, or I'm going to put a piece of textile here. I haven't quite figured out that yet, so we will deal with that when the time comes. Okay, so now I'm going to glue down this flap, and this is just going to make the spine, especially the edges, a little bit more sturdy. And yes, they're going to pop back up, so I'm going to have to get a clamp. And while they're drying, I am going to trim or miter the corners and then do a fold. Now look how little that was there. That's probably not going to make a great fold for me, but yeah, that's disappointing, Michelle. Some people just go straight across like this, and that's fine too if you have enough. I just find when I do that sometimes I don't get enough on the corner, and that bugs me. And for someone who obviously doesn't worry too much about perfection, the fact that it bugs me is not lost on me. That's kind of silly. Okay, so now I'm just going to glue stick and fold them over, just like we did yesterday. That bugs the bejesus out of me. My gosh, it bugs me so much. And I don't know why it does, because nothing usually bothers me too much that I do. That's why yesterday, if you saw me cutting the corners and mitering them, I kind of am a little messy about it because I'd rather trim after I do the folding and not get that, because that just really bugs me. And it's so funny because there's so few things that I can't live with in my junk journals, but that bugs me a lot. I hate seeing the cardboard. I really, really do. I hate seeing what's been beneath. Luckily, there isn't a really busy pattern or something, but still, it bugs me. And, you know, maybe normally you would center, just if it was a piece of scrapbook paper with like a pattern on it, you would just be centering that on your box. But because I want certain parts of Barbara's images on the front of my cover, that's why I kind of have these like little thin strips, because, you know, it's not about centering for me as much as highlighting the images I want. So this really needs to be burnished down because it's so small. And I'm going to have to really, really be good about what I choose for my paper on the inside here. So now I want to fold this over, although this might just be, oh, I was going to say it might be white, but now I have my cover. I have, well, not my cover, but I have my front panel, and then my back panel, and my spine. Okay, still a lot to do here, and we're going to do this one quickly. So I have 3 pieces of paper that I chose as my inside papers. I have this like graph paper, which has a lot of the same colors that are in this front. So I really like that. I have sheet music paper, which I already know I don't want, because I think it's going to be too busy if I put any of Barbara's images. Like, for instance, if I use this offcut, it's going to look great on there, but I don't think it's going to look great on there. Not that it looks bad, it's just I don't want it that busy. And then I have this, which is sort of like a patinaed wood, and that's kind of nice. But I think because there's like graph and graph, I'm going to use the graph paper. So I guess I need to actually measure. Well, or my version of measuring. Because this is already graph paper, I can kind of cheat a little. There's lines, and I can see the hinges on here, so I'm going to cut this piece here. And I really should know where I'm cutting on this side too. Now, usually I try to do 1/4 inch, but because the folded over paper is really tiny in spots, and there's some of that cardboard showing, I'm going to actually make it go really close to the edge, I think. So let's see if I measured okay. Yeah, that's really close to the edge. So I might miter this corner just a little bit. Maybe I'll take off just a skosh, the tiniest of skoshes. Just a skosh. And that is the tiniest of skoshes, isn't it? Let's see if that will fold. Yep, and it'll have a, okay, that's pretty good. I'm actually going to round that edge. All right, so I'm going to ink it. And as you know, I cut out the inking because nobody needs to sit and watch that. Okay, so now we can glue down this inside cover sheet. And since we've covered these steps before in the prior video, I'm going to just speed them up a little bit. and try to save a little bit of time because I know this video is going to be a little bit longer than I had hoped. So I'm really just measuring and cutting down the papers, gluing them on with glue and stick and burnishing them. There's really not a lot more to it than that, and maybe inking the edges. So now we have the center piece here, and I have this this background from the kit that I originally printed out and then I spilt tea on, and I think it might be good here. I'm not sure. I don't know if I'll like it or not, so I'm gonna actually use a tear ruler. I have these two We Are Memory Keepers tear rulers. I don't even know if they sell these anymore. I've had them like forever. And I think I'm going to tear, I think I'm going to use that one. And I think I'm going to tear where I can see the glitter or the gold flecks. And I'm going to tear onto this one. All right, that tore a lot more scallopy, if that's a word. And then I can ink that and glue that in here, and then that'll cover the spine, which I'd like to do. So let me get back to the inking. If I put that on right there, I would need to cut it. Well, it'll be easier if I do it this way. I'm going to turn this way. Why am I going to do that? Because I want to score it right on the hinge line, you know, the hinge. And how am I going to actually find where that hinge is? Well, if I take my fingernail and I go right over the hinge, I make an indent in the paper, and then I know where to score it. Let's see if I did that right. There's probably a 50-50 chance that I didn't. But we will find out. So now I need to glue it down. And it looks pretty good. Yay me! Well, wonders never cease. Now, why did I make a ripped edge? Well, I think because there's so many lines here, and I know my limitations. I know my strengths and I know my weaknesses. And one of my weaknesses, as I've often said, is that I really struggle with precision. Technical precision is just not my forte. So measuring and doing things straight, that's really hard for me. And the chances of me being able to cut something and mount it straight, in this particular case, would be low, and it would really show because this is so straight. So by putting something that's the direct opposite of straight, uneven and wavy, it doesn't really matter. There isn't any, your eye isn't going to automatically pick up on something not being straight because it's a moot point. So I hope that makes sense. So, you know, when you're doing your own work, I think you have to know what your strengths and weaknesses are. I'm really getting better at understanding what mine are. And I know that I do have a lot of strengths, but I also know I have a lot of weaknesses. And that's okay. I am human, but I'm going to work to my strengths. So now I have my signatures. I have 4 of them. Where's my fifth one? Here it is. And I really like how this looks inside. So now the next step I will be doing is, I'm not going to worry about pockets or anything in here yet because I don't really know what I want to do. I want to pick cover papers for these signatures. Now, as I said, I already don't mind these two, so I really only need 3. So I'm going to look for my double-sided ones because those are the ones I wanted. And I made them double-sided because obviously I want, when I open the booklet, I want that color to be inside. Now, yesterday's book that I made, I really didn't worry too much about those kinds of things because it's just going to be a note-taking book. I'm just going to be writing notes and making sketches in it. But this one I am going to be working in because this is a sample book. So I do want to open a page and see a pretty inside. Now, if I have this on the front cover, it's upside down. So I guess this has to be the front cover. So I will have that as a front cover. I'm going to choose this as a front cover. And I need it to be the right way up. And I'm going to choose this as a front cover. Okay. So now the key is I have to cut them down so that they fit perfectly. So I'm not going to be doing any kinds of fancy trimming. I'm going to simply make marks where that particular signature's top and bottom is, and I'm just going to cut it like that. I mean, yes, I'm that loosey-goosey. So I have this cover, then that cover, then this cover, that cover, then this cover. And which I have to decide what I like next to this. I kind of like the plain. I don't know why. Although that looks really cool together too. So maybe I will change the order like that. All right. So here is, it's really coming along. So now I'm at the place where I want to finish the cover so that I can put the binding in, and then I'll decide if I want to put like tuck spot or anything in there. So let's go back here. Do I want, I really like when I do no-sew bindings to have a textile on the back. So let me see what kind of lace or textile I can put over this. Okay, so I found 2 pieces of lace. I found a piece of lace that is just exactly the size of the binding, and I think it's going to be too small. And then I found this really lovely wide lace, and I like how it goes across and over the hinges. It's going to not completely obscure what's underneath because it's very see-through. So what I want to do is I want to make these hinges kind of disappear, and I can either use just a masking tape, which let's see how that would look, or I can use, I have this like green polka dot. It's kind of translucent, which I like. And then if I put the tape over it, it really kind of disappears. whereas the green will probably stand out quite a bit, which could be a good thing. Doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad thing. Well, that is a little bit more translucent than I thought as well. I think I like that this disappears a little bit more than this. So I'm going to opt for the masking tape. I am going to take a piece of masking tape and go on both of the hinges. Try to be as straight as I can, even though it is going to sort of disappear. Like that. So I'm really going to burnish that in. And I don't think I want it to come over the edge at all, so I will just trim it off. Actually, I don't really mind the look of that, but I do want this lace on there. So I have two sides to the lace. This side has a very kind of, it's kind of straighter, where this one is a lot more scalloped. And I really like the check in the graph on there. So I think I want the straighter side on this side and the more scalloped side on that side. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my Fabri-Tac and I'm going to, definitely put dots of it all over the spine. But the problem is you don't want Fabri-Tac to it will what are words? Words, Michelle, words. I've been having this problem lately, getting the words. It will saturate, is that the word I'm looking for? Saturate the textile, and I don't want it to be see-through. I don't want it to seep through, and then all of a sudden you see it. So I'm going to take the lace. Probably would be easier if I cut it so that it's a little less the front. Okay, so I'm going to put that right about there. And it might be a little less on this side than it is on the back side. And I'm okay with that because I want this to shine through. I just want it to be straight. I want to have equal amount on each side. And that looks about right. So then I'm going to have to go in and, obviously put Fabri-Tac here and there under the lace. Just sort of rub it in a little bit. And I like that. I like that the lace comes over. You can still see through. I can still see some of the graphics through here, like the butterfly wing. And then I love the scallop on this side. So all I have to do is decide if I want to bring it up into here or not, which I could. I think I will. I think it's appropriate for a book to have those end, the end fabrics. I can't remember the name of them. My cousin would know because she's a very technical bookmaker. I'm calling them end fabrics. Are they end tabs? I'm sure Sue will tell me later what they're called because I can't remember what they're called at the moment. I'm actually going to trim this little piece off here. And I'm gonna trim this part here because I don't want it to go past that sort of light blue. I think it blends well there. And I will stick that down. And truth be told, we're not going to really see much of this, especially on the spine, because, you know, you're going to have a binding there. And here I had all this great effect that Barbara put in there, and now I'm covering it. Okay. Let's make sure that folds well. Okay. We're almost to the no-sew binding. I think I want corners on here. Let's see what I have in my trusty hardware case. A bunch of corners here. Now, I don't like to buy on AliExpress because I do not like to worry about purchasing something that would rip off another artist. But I do still buy things like this because this is just metal. These are just little tiny things that book plates, things like that. Those are just hardware. They're not somebody's, you know, design. So I will still buy things like this. So if you're looking to purchase or to get inexpensive metal parts for your books, like book corners, you can get them at AliExpress relatively inexpensively, and you can buy them in bulk. And that's where I get, like, for my book corners. And I think it just really does strengthen those corners so they don't get dinged. And if you're like me and you didn't cover the corner 100% and you're seeing a little bit of that corner, you know, like this imperfection there, oops, that imperfection there, it you know, covers a lot of those kinds of little things. Okay, so I have my corner, and you could put a little glue in there too if they don't feel like they're going to stay. And while I'm here, I might as well pick out a book plate. And I can probably get away with a bigger one because this one's a bigger book. That might look very good. I used a small one yesterday. I think a big one will work out good today. I also have these really cool things, but since there's so many decorations on here, I'm just going to go really easy and very plain. And I'll show you at the end of the video how I will sometimes hide these holes. Very easy thing to do. I will do that last. Okay, I'm going to clear my desk and we're going to do the no-sew binding.